Hi guys, I'm Warren Speed. This documentary is all about the paranormal in Great Britain, about UFOs and cryptids and hauntings. And the first place I visited was Featherstone Castle, which is near Hotwhistle, which is in the very centre of Great Britain. And the castle dates back about 1,000 years. It's been reported to be haunted for quite a while, but they've never had an actual ghost team in there before. They do have now. They've been there a couple of years, and well, I met them. I went along and met them, went a few times, and let's see what happened. Hi guys.
Hi Warren.
I'm here at Featherstone Castle, which is near Hotwhistle in Northumberland, and come to meet these two guys, Graham and Ken, who run the what's your ghost team called?
It's the Uncovered Paranormal team.
And you're the only team who's ever been allowed in there to run investigations.
We were the first team, and we're the only team what's allowed to work in this area. Yeah.
And I was a couple of years ago when you started here.
Be about 2.5 years ago, and then we had the break for the pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's whatever we've got, it's working out just great. It really is. It's very, very haunted. Like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll have a look in the castle after this brief chat. Ken, can you tell us a little bit about the history of it, please?
Yeah, sure. What you're seeing now is the exterior is the 18th century incarnation of the castle, but essentially there's been a settlement on this site for about 1100 years. Started off as a medieval manor house on this site, and then fortified farm buildings, and then in the 12th century they started to build the Peel Tower, and it's been the seat of the Featherstones, or the Featherstone Halfs, ever since then, till the last 150 years or so, when the lineage died out.
And the Featherstones is kind of the reason why it's haunted, isn't it? With a Romeo and Juliet story.
Yes, it is. It's Abigail. It's everybody knows it's Abigail's wedding. It was the 17th of January, 16th century.
It was the 16th century.
Yeah. She really loved one of the Ridleys.
And that was another kind of rival family.
Yeah, exactly. There's Ridley Hall just down there.
Yeah.
So she was in love with one of the Ridleys, but her father, Albany, he said, no way you're marrying a Ridley. So she got an arranged he got an arranged marriage with Castle.
Yeah.
So he sort of forced his daughter to marry him. They were away out on a hunting party on the day of the wedding, and then the whole lot got slaughtered, every one of them. And it's a mystery to me and Ken, because even the Ridleys were slaughtered as well. You know, I love her.
Yeah.
He was slaughtered as well. And what you got to remember is the place where you set up now. This is where horses is always trained to come back if they've lost the riders.
And what's like the car park now? It's like the courtyard, isn't it?
And the horses came in, and there was it wasn't the whole wedding party come back. It was like a couple of horses had come back in, covered in blood. There's one with a person hanging off, but they'd actually been cut to ribbons. So the whole wedding party had been massacred. So it's known as the Abigail's massacre, you know.
And that's basically the cause of all the hauntings.
Yeah.
We think.
We're getting there. Yeah. Because there's a lot of people saying disembodied heads. They reckon there was heads cut off. There was slashed to bits. There was blood all over, and that's what intrigued me and Ken to come.
So
to
there's
this
been
castle.
disembodied heads seen in the castle.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Because there's been all kinds of things seen,
There's loads. There's a lot of shadows, voices, movement. There's poltergeist activity. There is a one what's got me and Ken intrigued, and the rest of the team. I'll show you when we get further in there. It's this. Can you remember the screaming woman?
Oh, down the corridor in the door.
She's just coming through. But when you look back, and you hear people who, when it was a school and stuff like that, they've always mentioned something about this screaming woman, and we actually witnessed that ourselves, and it was just totally amazing. It just blew us away.
What, you saw a woman?
No, it was like the voice. You just
scream?
could hear her screaming, and we knew that we were the only ones in the castle. It's like tonight, there's only us here, and everybody just looked at the door, and we opened the door, and you just could hear this scream coming. It was as though it was travelling through the corridors, and it just blew us away, didn't it? It was amazing to wait to hear, you know.
Yeah, well, come on, let's go in and see if we can hear it and see what we experienced.
The room there, if we go through that one's classed as the red room,
Right.
and that's got like something definitely happening in there. Have you heard of transfiguration?
Yeah.
There's a lot of transfiguration happens in that room, and we've done it with mirror scrying and stuff like that. And I've done like an experiment, because I know like sometimes I think it's good to just like one person to be by themselves and mirror scry. So I thought, no. I said we'll do it with 12.
So what's mirror scrying exactly?
Mirror scrying, it's like where they're all given a mirror, there's a little candle in front of them, and all they do is stare at it. And then it's like the spirit comes through your face, and it's like yourself, you could sit there and all your features would change and everything, so your face turns into the spirit what's there. So we tried it with 12 people, and out of the 12, there was 6 of them just freaked out. And what they were given, the description of themselves, and stuff what we've seen, spirit-wise. And then there was one where there's a woman, she just, her eyes sunk in, but she ended up getting a beard. And that just totally freaked her out. So every time I come and I do an investigation here with the public, red room, transfiguration room, and I set all the mirrors up, all the candles up, and I'll explain them what's happened. They try it with a mirror. After about 10 minutes, mirror down. Now, sit opposite each other. And it's like seeing me and you looking at each other. And it's so intense, and how the face changes. Some people, it just freaks them out. They can't believe what they see.
Have you caught any of this on film or anything then?
We've done it. It's a thing with me. Spirits always said, done a deed for self gains, done a deed for this, that, and the other. And it's a thing I've carried all my life. With Ken and the team, I've always told them, when you start videoing things and pictures and stuff like that, it can easily be altered. Are you with us?
Yeah.
So what I said was, I just took the concept of, come with us, you become a true believer when it personally happens to yourself.
Oh yeah.
So that's the way I run.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think with lights, cameras and stuff like that, that sort of stands them off.
Yeah.
Because they're intrigued with what's happening. And that's why I've done like other TV programs, and I even convinced them, just turn the cameras off. Just sit for a bit. And they're like, get that back on! You know what I mean? So it's proven it's there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like with this, the red room, that's classed as the transfiguration room. But that's the thing, that's a personal thing for me in there, because that's where we saw this very tall, if it's tall and slender, the more slender it is and taller it is, the longer you're going back.
And the older
Age-wise.
Right.
And that's happy. You can see the height of the door. Yeah?
Yeah, well, it's about 6.5 foot, isn't it?
So you can imagine somebody dipping down to get out of there.
Yeah.
That's how big it was. But it wasn't me. Well, I saw it, but it was a couple of the team members, and about 3 or 4 of the guests. They all saw it, and they were like,
In the red room?
yeah. And then they were saying, "Where you going, Graham?" I said, "Well, I've got to follow you and see where it is." And I wish I hadn't. Because it actually gone into the ballroom, the yellow room.
I will go through there in a minute.
So we were in there, and it was huge strides. I mean, you'll see when you're in the ballroom, and I was thinking, that's what I was amazed at. Then it just took a couple of strides and it was out. But there again, bending down to get underneath the door. So there's something there, what I'd love to get my finger on, exactly what it is and who it is, and why it's been here so long. So that's a personal thing for me to investigate. So.
Well, let's go through to the red room then.
Yeah.
So this is the chair that people get thrown out of.
Yeah, it is. It's scary when you sit. I mean, we feel sorry for the guests who are sitting in it. You know what I mean? But it's like, I've seen it that often. I've seen chairs move. I mean, it's like what we've said. You see a chair come out, but the ultimate thing is, while everybody's watching, if you're that clever, intelligent, can you pull the chair back in? And I've seen it pull it. But it's just something about this chair, because what happens is when you come in here, there's like a sequence what happens. It's like this female, she's still here, and she's just like watching, but you get like, it comes from there, comes through, and then you get something from this side comes in, and it's a lot of it's associated with beady grey, and I'm talking the whole floor lifts and down, and this is why you've got about 10 or 15 people in here. And all of the whole floor's heaving, and the people's like, they can't believe what's happening. But this chair, for some reason, whoever's sitting in it, when's the activity's up and it's built and it's aware, it's this chair. It's been pulled round while somebody's been on it, tipped over with a girl in it, and then we were talking just like we are now, and then the bloke said, I'll have a go, I'll sit in there. All the lights out, just sitting talking, and the next thing, he's gone. And it's amazing when you see it. It's scary, but it is amazing.
Yeah. Do you think because, I think we've said this, haven't we, with the cameras being on, that the kind of the spirits back away. And,
That's like when you get there now, I know this lady what's there, she's intrigued. Because you've got to remember, every time you come to rooms and stuff like that, something like this has never been done, Warren. In this country where you're at.
With us filming?
We're filming and stuff. Yeah. So that's why. So they're just intrigued with you. And it's like I say, you can feel them coming in, then they're looking. And it's, if they want to interact with you, they will. You know what I mean? It's like Art said, no, if any is Spirit of Featherstone Castle, be it with a cameraman, sound lady, Warren, any is, they'll give you permission. If you want to do anything with them, the permission's there, they've said you can. So there you go, that's it. Yeah. It's out there now. So if they want to do something with you, they will now.
So what, has this room got a name?
The attic.
The what?
We class it as the attic.
The attic?
Yeah.
And there's quite a few rooms off this. There's the staircase there.
Yeah, the stairwell, yeah.
Stairwell, yeah. And that goes up to the roof as well.
Yes.
And then you've got the little room. Well, it's hardly a room, is it, in that corner?
I think that's more like a lookout point.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And then you've got the other room in there that's got costumes in it.
We sort of call that Abigail's Tower. We give it that name. And it's just, ever since we only got access to that, about a year ago.
Yeah, it wasn't long.
Wasn't long, and since that's been opened, there's just that much stuff what's happening now. So we sort of think, have you released something?
Yeah.
You know, with the door being open now. But it's the thing what gets people is the light anomalies, what's happening. And honestly, it's like car lights, they're massive, but you see them coming across the wall, you see them going down the stairs.
Yeah.
And these are huge lights. And people saying, oh, it's got to be a car. I'm thinking, from where?
Yeah.
Where are you going to get car lights from? That's how bright it is and how strong they are. And it's fascinating when you see it. And the room at the back, that's the one where we got, it was just, all you could see, it was just black mass. And you could see it creeping out across the floor. And that's, to me, I think that's like a bunch of bad energy what's hanging about.
Yeah.
And that's what when you're seeing something like that, that's when you've got to be careful, because if that gets into somebody, then you've got problems, you know what I mean?
Well, like it can attach itself to you.
Yeah. So there's times where I've said cut, and we're away,
Yeah.
and we've gone.
Because you don't like it, do you, Ken?
No, it stems from a time when I think we were doing a team-only investigation, and we were drawn to the spirit in the lookout, and it was reaching out and it was scratching the wall, it was grabbing people. And we were huddled around that door and we were like calling out to the spirit, but every fibre in my body there was just a lighting, and that was it. My body was just saying, right, Ken, you've had enough in here now, finished. And I was like, I'm aware. And the team were like, no, we're here to investigate. I was like, I'm finished, I'm done. I'm just, you know, it was just, my whole body was just saying, out.
Yeah, because you were in there, weren't you, Graham, when the door slammed and you couldn't get out?
It's like a door where it's got to shut from the inside, and you can see it's not that big, because you've got to look in there. So what I do is, we've got a mirror in there, and sometimes we do mirror scrying in there, and it's basically try and catch the image of whatever's in there, or in this section of the castle. That's the reason why that's in there. And I went in and I was putting the mirror in, and it's not much, and then the door just slammed. And me, at first I thought, very funny, I thought it was like the team. And then I realised I was up here by myself, and there's nobody there, there's nobody out here, but it's like a snake off a gate. And it just wouldn't open. It just as though the force was keeping it shut from the inside, pushing it shut. And I'd start thinking, and all I said was, keep calm. I says, please, I says, we're not gaining anything by this. I says, can you just let us out? And the door just went, and that was it. Yeah. And I was telling you about that, and it was off. And then we had a girl in there, and she actually saw a figure in the mirror. And I've always learned, people, I says, when you're in a situation like that, never run. Never run. I says, it's a danger to yourself as well. I says, just, if you're not happy with it, just stand up and just walk away from it. I says, never run. Because you come out there like a greyhound. Once you... And like as I say, when we're on about the intelligent haunting, that's the table. What was lifted and through as Jill was passing through here, which the spirit said in the kitchen, that's what he was going to do. And that was, it was so fantastic for that to happen.
Because you were doing a Ouija board downstairs, weren't you?
In the kitchen, yeah.
And you're saying, basically, you know, prove that...
A spirit come out of the board, and he says, oh, I know where Jill is. And it was Simon who was running that, and Simon says, well, where is she? She's in the attic now. And that's what it's spelled out on the board, in attic. And he went, well, prove it, if she's in the attic. And he did say, scare her now. Did you hear that down on the stairs there?
Did I what?
Did you hear something on the stairs there?
No.
I did.
I thought I did.
Yeah. And then what happened was, is Jill, because you've been down the stairwell, Warren?
Yeah.
Jill come in with a guest, put him down the stairwell, and then in the kitchen downstairs it said, she's alone now. And Simon said, well, do it now then, and prove it. And Jill just got past this chair and this whole table just banged and rocked and buff, and she was off like a shot. And she comes screaming. She comes screaming down them stairs, wasn't she? But Simon could hear her screams, and Simon was sort of met, and I said, he goes, has something just frightened you? Yeah, get in. And we said, oh, what's happening? He says, it just told us that's what it was going to do. So it was a huge night. And it's what it's telling you is intelligent haunting. They're listening to what you're saying, and they will act on what you ask them. And it just blew me away. I just thought it was amazing.
It'd be hard to beat that.
Yeah.
That's a high. That's a real high.
That's a very high. Yeah.
The next part of the documentary is largely about UFOs and aliens. I met a guy called Malcolm Robinson. He was one of the UK's foremost UFO experts. We had a good chat about a lot of things. He's based near Bonnybridge, which is kind of a bit of a Falkirk triangle of a lot of sightings. He talked about some alien encounters around there that he's investigated a lot. He knows a lot about UFOs and aliens. He's done it for decades. And let's see what he had to say. Okay guys, I'm up in Scotland now with someone who's got a lot of UFO knowledge amongst other things. I'll let him introduce himself.
Yeah, nice to have you here, Warren.
Cheers.
My name's Malcolm Robinson. I'm the founder of Scottish research group Strange Phenomena Investigations. We were founded way back in 1979 to investigate claims pertaining to ghosts, poltergeists, UFOs and a whole range of strange and paranormal stuff, yeah.
And we're not like where you actually live, where we are now in your UFO room. It's not far from Bonnybridge, which is like one of the UK's UFO hotspots, isn't it? Or it was not so long ago.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Bonnybridge is known in UFO speak as a hotspot or a window area, and what that means effectively is an area in the planet that seems to attract a higher concentration of UFO reports than anywhere else. And it wasn't until 1992 I was listening to Central FM, a local radio station, and they had local councillor Billy Buchanan on the show, and he was talking about all these UFO reports, and I just knew that I had to become involved. So I contacted the station, and he says he was so glad that I was from a responsible body to help him, because he was elected to serve the people of Bonnybridge in any way, shape or form. Far did he think that it was going to be people saying UFOs, but he couldn't turn them away. He couldn't say go away because he was elected to serve them, so he had to take that on board. Yeah.
And what kind of sightings were there? Because there was loads. When I was in the 90s, there was hundreds, wasn't there?
Yeah, that's correct. Over from probably 1992 till present day, but certainly from 1992 to 1999, there were over 300 to 400 sightings. The newspapers and media put an extra zero on that, and I don't like that at all. But it's fair to say that I was working in the Bonnybridge area 10 years before 1992. 1982 I was working in UFO sightings in that area. So it does go back even further. Right. But the sightings in Bonnybridge basically comprise of a whole range of different shapes. You had your classic flying saucer shape, like two soup plates joined rim to rim. You had balls of light which just descend from the sky and go back up again, red, blue, green, white, all these different colours. You had the cigar-shaped objects moving silently and slowly across the skies. And also, latterly, you've had the triangular-shaped objects. It's fair to say that the people in Bonnybridge and surrounding areas do know, they're aware that they're on a flight path to Cumbernauld Airport, Glasgow and Edinburgh, so they know air traffic's in the sky. These are totally different. Totally different.
There isn't any kind of military bases around in the area, is there?
No, not really. There's none at all, and I mean that would be with any given sighting one. What we do is, first of all, we check with the police to see if any members of the public have phoned in and they've saw it as well. We check with the local airports, the national airports, to see if there were any air activity in the given area. We check with the Ministry of Defence. We check with local flying clubs. So, basically we're dotting the I's and crossing the T's with any given sighting. And it's fair to say that the vast majority majority of UFO reports can be explained. It's just a small 5% that can.
And also, there's the A70 sighting, wasn't there? And how far away was that? I mean, that was in the Falkirk Triangle, so to speak, wasn't it?
Yes, I mean, they call it the Falkirk Triangle, but I'm more concerned, but I would more say it was the Central Belt, although it does have this name, Falkirk Triangle. Yeah, the A70 case, that was another baffling case as well, and it happened in 1992. Two men from Edinburgh jumped in their car and were driving to a small village called Tarbrax in West Lothian. So as they left Edinburgh...
just how far was that from Bonnybridge?
It's probably a good maybe 10-15 miles or so.
Because it's not far, and it's the same kind of year when they all, so it's
it is, yes,
linked, isn't it?
Absolutely. And as they left the built-up city of Edinburgh and they left behind the big tenement buildings, they were going out to farmland. So it was just farmland on either side of the road. And they passed the Harper Reservoir. And again, it's fair to say these men had no interest in UFOs, but heard about it like everybody else. And as they're driving down the A70, they approached a blind bend, and Colin, who was in the passenger seat, said to Gary, who was driving, "What's that? What is that?" And they looked through the windscreen of the car and they saw this two-tiered jet black shiny object, totally devoid of wings, hovering silently about 30-40 feet above the surface of the road. They knew straight away this wasn't an aircraft or a helicopter of any description. And if you can imagine, my hand here is a UFO, this is a car, and as the car was directly underneath this hovering object, this object emitted a heavy silver shimmering curtain. Heavy silver snowflakes just descended and hit the roof of the car, and as it did so, both men were enveloped in total and inky blackness. They couldn't see their hands in front of their face, they couldn't see the dashboard of the car, they couldn't see each other. Are we dead? They're thinking, have we crashed? Have we died? Seconds later, we don't truly know how long, but they presume seconds later, they regained their sight, but the car was on the other side of the road. You had to pull the steering wheel back and get it onto the other side of the road. And at that point, they just screamed to their destination of Tarbrax. They knocked on the occupant's door, and the lady says, "What time do you call this? You're an hour and a half late, guys. Where have you been?" The journey warrant should only have taken 30 minutes, 35 minutes tops. An hour and a half over that. They proceeded to tell occupants of the house of this strange craft that they saw. And that night, and subsequent nights thereafter, they had these strange dreams of these small grey creatures coming into their dream world. They call them the Greys. Roughly 3.5 to 4 feet tall, pear-shaped heads, black inky almond-shaped eyes, bluey grey translucent skin, and then they found scars on their body that previously were not there. We all know our bodies, we're in the shower, we know what's what. Where did that come from? Fresh scars. Gary didn't know what to do. Who do you tell? Do you talk to the police? Who do you go to? So he decided to go to his local library, and he went to the kind of UFO and paranormal section. He picked out a book, it had my address, he contacted me, I listened to what the guys had to say, and then I says, "Guys, do you want to go under hypnotic regression just to see if perhaps something else may have transpired that night?" He says, "Malcolm, we'll try anything. Even our wives don't believe us, our workmates make fun of us. We need to try, we need to know what's going on, So we used a qualified hypnotherapist, very, very briefly, Warren, because it is a big story. We took them back to that August night. And as the car was underneath this object and the glittering, shimmering effect hit it, they saw these grey creatures coming towards the car. They were taken presumably on board this craft. Gary was stripped naked, he was lying on this flat raised table. He couldn't move a muscle, he could only move his eyes. And he said to me, he says, "Mark, I desperately want to punch one of these guys, he can handle himself, Gary." I couldn't move, I could not move, I could only move my eyes. And he saw this like a can-shaped device. It was about 2.5 feet tall, come up from the floor, and then this lever kind of thing moved up and it went round his head. Two grey creatures were at the foot of the bed as well, or this table, and one of them had a pendulum device moving up and down his body. He also claims, he says, "Malcolm, he started to tell me something, but then he retracted it. I said, no, tell me. Anything you'd say is important. What he said was this. He says, I looked to my left, down on the floor was a naked female. She had her knees up under her chin, and she had her arms around her knees, and she just gently turned and looked at me, and tears were running down her face, and she says, Malcolm, I'll always remember that forlorn face.
That was a human female.
It was, that's the thing, it was, yeah. Colin found himself encased in this glass or perspex chamber. He was naked and he was strapped down, and he says he could only move his eyes to the left and to the right. He saw naked people as well, and all these greys moving around. Now, it sounds preposterous, it sounds ridiculous, but it's consistent. It's consistent with tales coming from Europe and the rest of the world. And today it stands the test of time as one of Scotland's biggest UFO, certainly abduction events, you know. And I'm convinced totally of the sincerity, of the honesty of these two people. Skeptics have put forward that they were on drugs, they were on this, they were on that. That's fine. We need the other side of the coin, of course we do. But in my heart, I know these guys were telling the truth, and they still are looking for answers.
Yeah. And what about the case about Bob Taylor? That's a well-known.
Yes, the Robert Taylor case is probably one of the biggest cases that I dealt with in my early career, getting involved in this subject. It transpired on the morning of November the 9th, 1979, and forestry worker Robert Taylor was employed by the Livingston Development Corporation in the forestry department. Again, like most people, he had no interest in UFOs whatsoever. In point of fact, he was a war hero. He actually was in a tank regiment that liberated Bergen-Belsen during the Second World War. But on the morning of November the 9th, 1979, he alighted from his pickup truck at the edge of the forest. He was accompanied down this forestry path by his Irish red setter dog, Lara. And as they walked down this forestry path, the path opened up into a clearing in the forest. And he couldn't believe what he was looking at, because about 40 yards away from him was this large dome-shaped craft with a flange going around its perimeter, and these cross-like projections sticking up from the flange. And he's looking at this, he couldn't believe what he's looking at. He's been doing this job for days and weeks and months and years, and suddenly he's looking at something like this.
Yeah.
He says to me in conversation when we interviewed him, he says, Malcolm, then parts of it seemed to disappear. And then you would see the young trees in the background, then the craft would solidify again, then desolidify. His dog was barking furiously beside him. And as if the scenario couldn't get any more strange, it did. Because suddenly what resembled 2 Second World War sea mines, those bobbing mines you got in the North Atlantic, descended from beneath this hovering object and impacted on the grass and started rolling across the grass towards him. You can imagine he's absolutely shocked, he's terrified. These things are coming towards him, he's like this. And then they extended these rod-like projections and forcibly grabbed him at the hips and pulled him very, very forcibly towards this large hovering object. At that point he says to me, he says, Malcolm, there's a horrible burning smell pervading the whole area, like burning brake linings, as if you had pressed your foot on the brake, and the smell coming through the footwell just grabs you. And there was a swishing sound as well, and then bang, he lost consciousness. We don't truly know how long he was out for, but when he regained consciousness, the larger object was gone, the smaller objects were gone, and there were over 40 holes in the grass, a combination of triangular shaped impressions, circular impressions, and also track-like marks. And he had a nasty graze under his chin, he had a nasty graze on his head, his trousers were ripped, and his jersey was all muddy. And he went back to his pickup truck to radio base, but he couldn't speak. He somehow lost his voice as well. Then he managed to reverse into a small ditch, the back wheels of the trucks spinning about, he couldn't get out. So he staggered back to his home in Deans, it's a small village near Livingston. And when his wife saw him, she went, "What's happened to you?" And he said, "I've been attacked." And she says, Attacked? Attacked by who? By what? And he said the famous words, and I've got to say it as it is, Warren, he says, I've been attacked by a spaceship. She says, "Come in, there are no such things as a spaceship, come in." And then she said, wait a minute, I know my husband. He wouldn't make up a story like that. So she phoned the local doctor, a local GP. He attended the family dwelling, and Bob's heart was racing, obviously. He saw the greys under his chin and on his forehead. And he says, look, I'm going to ask you to go to Bangor Hospital, which he did. But Bob waited, and he waited 2 hours. He wasn't seen, so he discharged himself. By that time, Bob's boss attended the family home. Bob was back by this time, and both men went up to the forest, and Bob says to his boss, he says, look, there's the marks there. And he went, yeah, they certainly are. The police became involved, Warren, and the reason the police became involved was because this was an assault by person or persons unknown, and the police had to become involved. They fenced off the area. I've interviewed a number of the police officers myself. Thankfully, one of them knew Robert very well. And he says, Malcolm, he would never make up a story like that. He goes down, he plays bowls, he drinks in the club, he keeps himself to himself, and he wouldn't make this up. And it stands the test of time for me as one of the most amazing sightings in Scotland in this Falkirk Triangle. And a few years ago, we got signage placed in the woods because people were coming from all over the world to these woods, and they couldn't find it. So thankfully, with the help of West Lothian Council, we've got signage, just like the signage in Rendlesham Forest in England, to point the way, so to speak, to where this area happened. It's heavily overgrown now. The trees were small in 1979, they're grown up and they're encroaching in the area, but it's totally changed from what it was back in the day.
So again, like you said, that was in the Falkirk Triangle, so all three that you've spoke about were in the Falkirk Triangle. Why? So after we'd spoken to Malcolm about UFOs, me and Jamie, my cameraman, went to Rendlesham Forest. In Britain, in England, and we were there on the hottest day of the year ever in England. It was boiling hot, and Rendlesham Forest is one of the well-known places for UFO sighting in England, around the world really, to be honest. The US military had a strange encounter, and it's quite a well-documented case, so let's pop along, see what me and Jamie found there. So we're here in Rendlesham Forest, which is kind of known as Britain's Roswell. Probably Britain's most famous UFO incident happened here. There's a UFO walk goes round. Let's read this out. It happened in Christmas 1980. It was a time of the sighting during a period of extreme military and political sensitivity owing to the Cold War. The United States Air Force leased RAF Woodbridge, which is just over there, with the runway extended into the forest, and RAF Bentwaters, located 4 miles north of the forest. The US Air Force was part of the defence work of NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organisation. It was actually 27th of December when the incident happened, and 2 USAF security patrolmen reported seeing unusual lights just on the edge of the forest, thinking an aircraft might have come down, sought permission to leave the base and enter the forest. Went to investigate, separated in their search. One described seeing strange lights, the other reported seeing a glowing object that appeared to be metallic and triangular in shape. When he tried to get closer, the object reportedly retreated through the trees and disappeared. Reports of the incident have caused a lot of division ever since. We can have a wander around the trail. We'll speak to someone who knows a lot more than I do as well. So let's wander on around the trail, see what we can see. Just follow me. The only actual UFO experience I've had myself, I remember, was in the 70s when I was a kid, and me and my mate saw this weird ball of light flying across the sky. Always stuck with me, I was quite scared, to be honest. I was about 10 at the time, but who knows what it was. obviously there are a lot of UFO alleged sightings during the day. I suppose in the night, that's when you hear, you read about them a lot more, but probably more difficult to see in the day. But there's that many different types of UFOs, like UAPs. Nothing so far that we've seen. Interesting. So we're at another spot in the Rendlesham UFO trail. Over here we've got a recreation of what the two United States Air Force servicemen, Jim Penniston and John Burroughs, saw. Supposed to have landed. The next day when they went to investigate further, there was 3 depressions found in the ground, and the radiation levels were a lot higher than normal. So who knows what happened that night. Well, the next place we went to is probably one of the most haunted places in the world, to be honest. If you look on the website, it's a house called 30 East Drive in Pontefract, in kind of the north of England. There's so many stories, so many things being seen there. Look on the website, 30 East Drive, I think .com, I think it is. But so many people, because you can go there and visit now. The house was bought by a guy called Bill Bungay a good few years ago. The original family who moved there, the Pritchards, in the 1960s. The man and wife had 2 children, a son who was 15 and a daughter who was 12, and that's when it all, the reported things that they reported there were just bizarre. I mean, there was green foam came out of the taps, lights used to go on and off, plants leapt out of pots, cupboards used to shake violently, there was an endless list of levitating objects, and I think the worst thing that happened was Diane, the 12-year-old daughter, her long hair one night, her long hair stood up on end, and she was actually physically dragged up the stairs, and when when it all kind of subsided, she had finger marks on her throat. So yeah, it's a very strange house, and if you, like I said about the website, if you go on there, there's a list of nearly 300 different things that have been reported by various members of the public who've gone along. Me and Jamie went along, had a look. We went during the day, and we didn't see anything ourselves, but we did have a good look around, and the house is all kind of still in the 70s. It's still decorated throughout in the 1970s style, and we spoke to a lady who, besides going to 30 East Drive and having some very scary experiences there, she'd also been to the London Dungeon, where she had further horrible encounters, really, which followed her back to her house. So we'll speak to her now. I mean, some of the things that are listed on the website, there's objects appearing out of thin air, TV going on and off, the lights going on and off, dolls changing position, shadowy figures often seen, growls, laughter, coughing, whispers heard, lots of orbs. On one occasion, in one of the rooms, there's a single bed that was found to be broken to pieces one morning, apparently by I think it's called the Black Monk, who haunts the place. I think the Pritchards referred to him as Fred, to try and, I don't know, make him more human. Guests have had their hair pulled, have been prodded and poked, there's been freezing blasts of air, guests have even been scratched. Yeah, so have a look on the website. Unbelievable amount of things. And like I said, you can go and visit the house as well if you want to experience it all for yourself. So I'm here with Alexa Destrange, who actually stayed overnight at 30 East Drive. Did you know much about the house beforehand?
Yeah, I'd been watching like Ghost Adventures and Paranormal Lockdown for like years, and when they went to the house of Pontefract, all I could think about was going.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like we'd done a few sort of like overnights at different places, and I had been put off at one of them about 4 years ago, and I stopped doing them completely. And then one of my friends was like, oh, for our birthday, why don't we go to the Black Monk House at Pontefract? And I'm like, okay, that's fine. But I kind of had a really bad feeling about it, to be honest, because I've had such a bad experience with doing these things before.
What bad experiences have you had before?
Horrendous. So I went to the London Tombs. It must have been in around 2018 or 17 even. And it started when we went in. I went with a group, like an actual group of people who were going, like, you paid to go and spend overnight there, and they took you around on this thing. They did sort of like communication, this and that. But as we're going round, I'm getting pokes. I mean, physical pokes on my rib cage, hard, right? And everyone else is quiet, and I'm going, ow, ow, and I'm thinking, oh God, someone's doing this as a joke. Someone's poking me.
Yeah.
I thought it was Shannon, my partner, and I thought, oh, it must be him. And I said, are you poking me? And he said, no. And it didn't stop. So in the end, I just started being quiet, but I could feel it, and it almost went through my sweatshirt, but I could feel it on my skin. It was the weirdest feeling ever. Anyway, we went and sat down sort of in this room. They were telling us about the history of the place. And I kid you not, we both heard a growl, and we both like looked at each other and were like, oh my God, what was that? So my dog's just turned up.
Yeah.
So we just kind of like got on with it. And then as the night went on, it got darker and darker in there. I mean, they were doing these things where they had like a tipping table. It was like literally walking around the room with just pretty much on its own. With just some woman's. Have you seen that before?
I haven't really, no.
It was, I mean, literally, so this table, first of all, we had our fingers on it, on top of it. So there's nothing underneath it. It's like a little fold-up table. And she's like, come on, put all your energy into it. So we're all there going, oh, this energy. And the next minute, this table starts walking around the room with our fingers on it. And literally everyone took the fingers off and it was still walking around, and then it stopped. And then I just started to get really freaked out. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
And then I think the worst part of it came around 4 a.m. I started to just feel really, really tired. And I was like leaning over one of the baths that's in there. It's like some sort of exhibit. And Shannon said that he saw a black shadow over my head, literally like it was bearing down on me. And I was sort of like falling down over the bath. And it wasn't long after that we saw an actual ghost in the London Tombs. We saw like a big black shadow running down an alleyway sort of thing that we both saw. It wasn't just me that saw it. And I screamed and I was like, I'm done. I'm going home.
Yeah.
So we left. It was about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and everything was fine, went to bed. And then it was the next morning that things started to get weird. We went out for lunch. We were a bit hungover. We'd had a few drinks. So the next morning we went to the pub, hair of the dog. And they were like in this pub, there was like these sparkling lights that were really bright, and they were floating, and we were laughing. We were going, oh my God, look, there's a light floating around. And Jana was like, oh, I can see it as well. And we thought it was cool. We were just like, oh, whatever, this is just funny. It's probably just a little spirit orb from last night. We went back home, and that's when it got really, really dark. So about sort of like 3 or 4 started with bangs in the house, growls, drawers coming in and out. My cats were freaking out. That night we tried to go to sleep. I put my headphones on because I was that scared. I couldn't. Yeah. I didn't want to hear what was going on. So I put my headphones on, and the next minute Shannon jumped out of bed, and there was it was like we'd had the bedroom door shut, and it was like someone had thrown the whole body weight against the door, trying to get out of the room, not in. You know, that'd be the weirdest thing. Someone trying to get in, but this was from the inside, pushing it to try and get out. After that, the house became unlivable in. It turned out this house, I mean, we lived literally a few meters from the London Tube, so this house was built over the plate pits, this block of flats.
Right.
And we were on the 3rd floor, which you'd think wouldn't be too haunted in a brand new building. And it sort of culminated all week. It was like this, and we had to call the company we'd been on the thing, and they were like, well, we'll put you in touch with the mediums. But they couldn't come for another 4 days to help clear. So all of this time, I was panicking every day. I felt like I was being watched. I felt things over my shoulder. We were hearing growls. I felt like I was losing the plot mentally with it. And then finally, it came to the day when they turned up. And before they turned up, everything went freezing cold. And like I could see my breath on the air, and it was October. So it wasn't what you'd think frosty weather. October in the middle of London, where we were at the time. And when the mediums came, I said, I'm freezing, I'm shivering with cold. And she said, oh, it's the spirit trying to put you off us coming in. And by this time I had showers, and she said she could see it. And then she said, I've got one of your relatives here. And this was a bit that really got to me. She said, your relatives are Spanish. And she said, she's saying a word in Spanish, but I don't understand what it means. She said, do you understand what it means? So she said the word to me, and that word related to something in Spanish that only I know, one of probably my deepest, darkest secrets. And I was like, she said, do you know what that means? And I went, no. So there's no way I was going to admit what it meant. Absolutely no way. And that literally was probably the moment for me that I literally went over the edge with it all. Anyway, so they started doing Reiki on me downstairs. They went upstairs, they cleared all of that. And then she said, it's gone. She said, it's gone. And I said, it's gone. And she said, yeah. She said, we've got it out of your flat. It did feel really flat and dead in there after, but I couldn't live there anymore because I'd got so freaked out. So I think it was 3 days later, I called my landlord and I said, I need a different flat, I need to move. I got removalists to come in. I never went back in that flat, even after it was cleared. They went in, got my stuff, took everything out, and I moved to my new house, which was about 10 miles away. And the day that we moved, I unpacked everything, and Shannon had gone to take his mum to the station. And I kid you not, I sat on the sofa and I went, thank God. And I kid you not, a stone was thrown at me in my new house. And I literally went cold. Now, after that, there was nothing else. So it was almost just like, I'm going cold thinking about it now. I'm getting cold everywhere. It was just one of those awful, awful times. And that put me off. So when I thought about going to the Black Monk House, I thought very carefully about it. And yeah, I wish I hadn't gone, because although I didn't get an attachment afterwards, the night that I had there was horrendous, absolutely disgusting. And the thing about the Black Monk House is that it doesn't always show you actual things. Like when you go to the London Tubes, you might see an actual ghost. People have seen ghosts in the Black Monk House. I didn't see one, but it's what I felt, what I heard, and what I saw that was manifested that wasn't a ghost as such, but horrible little creatures. Do you know what I mean?
So why did you go back then after?
I don't know. Do you know?
If I'd have had that terrifying experience, I don't know.
4 years have passed.
Yeah.
And when time passes and you've always had an interest in the paranormal, you go, oh, okay, it would be fun, and we always wanted to go there. Shall we go and have a look? And I was like, well, that's fine. I'll go. I'm not doing any calling out. I'm not doing any Ouija boards. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. I'm just going to go and sit there and observe. And I thought that by observing, I'd be pretty safe.
Did you just stay over for one night?
Yeah. So one night.
And who else did you go with?
I went with Shannon. Also, my friend Dan and his partner went. Now, all of us were petrified of ghosts, you know. Although Dan was more curious, I suppose, and he was sort of documenting everything. And a lot of the things that happened, well, one of the things that happened specifically, we did catch on video, which I think he has somewhere, or I have even on my phone, which was whistling at us. But the house plays jokes with you. So, for instance, we arrived and we thought we'd order a curry. Yeah, you're not allowed any alcohol in the house, so we weren't drinking or anything. But we thought we'll order an Indian. So we were sat there waiting for the Indian, and we thought, while we're waiting, let's just do some, you know, asking for knocks, this and that, you know, like you do. Is anyone there? Can you give us a knock? Anyway, there was nothing for about 5 minutes. We carry on chattering away, and then all of a sudden, there's the biggest hammering on a door that you've ever heard. And we went, ah! Like, and Chana went, it's the Indian at the door. Now, when I went to the door to answer the door, he said that he'd been knocking for ages, but we'd not heard it, even though we were only a few feet away from the door. So it didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
It's almost like when you're in that house, 30 East Drive, you're in a cocoon of something in another world, honestly. Yeah. And when I asked the Indian man, were you hammering the door just now? He went, no, I just gave it another couple of knocks. So we were like, well, that's weird, because we had bang, 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 you know. I was like, oh my God. So we all ate our food. And as we were eating our food in the other room, we could hear things moving. And we kept looking at each other and going, oh, what was that? So we cleared up our dinner, cleared everything away, put everything in the bin that we hadn't eaten. And then we started sort of like wandering around the house, which seemed quite calm. We were scared, but there was nothing for a couple of hours. I think it was around 11 o'clock. I went for a wee, and Shannon came with me because I was so scared to go by myself. And I heard, and the toilet is next to that closet. You know, the what's it called? The coal scuttle or whatever it is.
No, the
you
little coal shed thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been in. Yeah. We went
So
during
the
the
toilet,
day. And...
you know, so you'll know the loo is next door to that.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So I went to the loo, and I heard someone go, like that, and I just was like, who was that? And Dan and his partner were in the kitchen, so quite a significant amount of space away, but it sounded like, sorry, I heard a bang that actually scared me. I'm giving myself the heebie-jeebies. Do you know, I don't like talking about it, because literally I feel sometimes that the energy that you create by talking about it actually brings it all back. I'm not even joking. Yeah,
no,
like,
no.
I'll find that things are really weird today. And I heard that sort of moan, and it seemed to come from that room, from the coal scuttle next to the toilet. So we kind of like, oh my God. So we went out of that, and then we started doing this thing upstairs where we were sort of talking, and then someone said, I can't remember who it was, oh, did you hear that whistle? Like someone whistling for a dog. And I went, no, I didn't hear it, but I was like, oh, you know, if anyone's there, why didn't you whistle? So I whistled, and then up the stairs came this whistle back at us, and we literally just went, oh, you know, because they'd actually physically whistled back at us. And then I was like, oh no, I'm literally, at this point, I'm literally over it all. And then, so me and my friend, the girl, we were there, we decided that we were tired, and all of a sudden we just felt so drained. I didn't want to do it anymore. So I said, let's just, their name's Kelly. We just went, so let's go to bed upstairs in that room, you know, in the bedroom where the double bed is.
Yeah.
We let the boys do some stuff, but for some reason, all I wanted to do was turn off the light. And I'm like, I want to turn off the light. And before, we wouldn't even go upstairs by ourselves. So all of a sudden, the house is trying to segregate you.
Yeah.
It's trying to put you in positions where you're vulnerable in the dark, which seems to like you in the dark. It likes you away from your groups. And it gets worse for segregation as well. So, and this house is freezing cold. It's middle of winter. We didn't have, I don't think there's any heating on. I can't really remember, but it was cold in there. And then the boys did some sort of like stuff upstairs. We've got loads of orbs on camera, blah, blah, blah. And then we were all didn't want to really split up. So we thought, right, we're all going to lay on that double bed upstairs. So 4 of us, like sardines, literally, it was ridiculous, honestly. Laid like that. And I keep insisting, I want the light off. I want the light off. So the light goes off. And then all of a sudden, they all fall asleep. I'm wide awake and burning up. I'm burning up so bad that all I want to do is leave all of them, and I wanted to go into that room where the single bed is, you know, where the poltergeist is that broke the bed. I wanted to go in there and lay on that bed by myself. But something inside me was saying, no, you don't. No, you don't. Don't do that. Don't do that. But my body's going, I just want to get out. I want to get out. I think I felt like hot and claustrophobic. And that's when I looked at the wall. So opposite the bed in the corner, there were these like black. I can only describe them as black spider crab-like creatures, maybe about this big.
Yeah.
And they were all crawling up the wall. And honestly, I felt like I was hallucinating. Like I was like, that's not real. But I'm like, I can't look. Literally. So I was like closing my eyes. I'll have another look and just see if they're still there. And they were. And that's when I woke Shannon up and said, Shannon, I can't sleep in this room anymore. Let's go downstairs. So we went downstairs, and I think we managed to sleep for about an hour, maybe, and it got to about 6 in the morning, I think. And we're like, right, that's it. Let's make a cup of tea. Hopefully the night's over. I've got a massive fear of spiders, and I'm kind of pretty sure that's why it showed me the crab-like spiders on the wall. Next minute, I'm sat on the sofa while Jana's making tea, and the biggest, fattest spider I've ever seen runs across the floor, another one on the ceiling. Now, I never saw any spiders the night before, and I'm pretty sure that they were manifested as just like negative entity sent it because they knew I was scared. So I put my feet up on the sofa, wrapped myself up in my coat, and then we started hearing wallpaper being ripped off the walls. And I don't know if anyone else has heard this, but it was so clear. It was like literally like someone's next to you getting a whole load of wallpaper going down on the wall. And I'm like, and Shannon could hear it, I could hear it. The other two were fast asleep on the bed upstairs, and all we could hear was someone walking around the bed, even though the bed is next to the wall. I could hear someone circling. And I thought, I'm going cold again. I thought, Dan and Kelly are up, right? And we thought they'd be coming down, but no, they weren't. They were still in bed, so something was walking around them while something was ripping wallpaper off next to us. Finally, they woke up, and honestly, I've never been so desperate to get out of anywhere in my entire life. And we said we'd never go back, and we haven't yet. And I've got no intention of going back.
Did you tell me earlier that something had followed you home as well after East Drive? Or was that?
Yeah. So it wasn't as bad as what we had at London Bridge, but the weirdest thing happened that night after East Drive, we were chilling out. I think we got some food, got a bottle of wine, we were drinking it downstairs. I went upstairs to tidy. I've got like a dressing room, tidied everything up, and I'm listening to I must have been listening to the radio, which I don't do very often. Had the radio on, and suddenly it was telling me about it was talking about Pontefract, the Duke of York, and it was talking about the soldiers and about that battle. And I'm like, that's weird, because I've never heard anything about. I mean, obviously I knew there was a battle because I was told about it in that area, but it was explaining the whole battle that was in that area where we'd just been the night before. And I can't remember what radio station it was. It just started like talking about it like on normal radio, and I'm just like, that's just so weird. So I went downstairs, told Shannon about it, and he's like, oh, just turn the radio off. And it was just really odd, like, just odd little things. But, oh God, sorry, it was the dog. I'm actually scaring myself now.
Oh, you're scaring me now as well.
Oh, I'm sorry. I know. I've gone cold everywhere. I literally hate talking about it.
Well, I know, I appreciate you do.
You do, it just... Pablo, stop it!
I often get goosebumps. I was on the 30 East Drive website last night, just refreshing my memory, and I was getting goosebumps, watching some of the videos of like the shadows passing the screen. And
did you have anything happen there?
No, we were there from about 3 o'clock till 5 o'clock on the hottest day ever in Britain.
Right.
It's red hot, but nothing happened at all when we were there. But I think, like you said, well, I know stuff happens during the day, doesn't it?
It does, but in all honesty, I think as darkness comes, energy for some reason seems to get stronger, and entities become more awake. And I noticed this when I had the attachment at London Bridge, that it would start at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That's when it would start small, and it would get bigger and bigger and bigger. I mean, at East Drive, we were starting to get poltergeist activity, things moving about. When we were in the other room, we could hear it. I'd probably say, I think we got there about 4. By 6, we were hearing stuff for sure. By 8, it was getting very scary in there. By 10 o'clock, it was almost unbearable. I mean, it was just, but some people don't feel anything, and some people don't feel anything. But both me and Shannon are both very sensitive. My grandmother was a psychic medium, so I had to have on that first attachment, I had to have my third eye shut down a little bit because I wasn't coping. I was seeing things right, left, and centre, and it's a weird thing. I think if you are sensitive, you are open to a lot more, and also if you're scared, being scared gives energy to entities, so they feed off it.
Yeah.
And I get really scared at everything, so I obviously give them a lot of energy. I don't know.
I actually had a face reading done yesterday by kind of I don't know how she'd describe herself, the lady I know, but she does tarot, and she used to do a lot of in the paranormal, but she stopped because a lot of really kind of weird and dangerous stuff was happening. But she read my face, and she reckons, she showed me like a close-up, I think it's just above my eye, a little kind of shadow of, like, she thinks I've got a guardian spirit of a wild dog. So, because I don't know if I'm just not attuned to much spiritual stuff, or whether this spirit guardian is protecting me.
Maybe. Maybe.
The more you look into it, they're just strange.
That's the thing, isn't it? Yeah, I know. It is all very, very scary. I mean, I say to people now, when people say, "Oh, I'm going to go on a ghost hunt," I go, "Really? It's not that great an idea, because you're opening up avenues to things you can't shut down."
Yeah.
And we don't know enough.
You've got to kind of do the protection.
Yeah.
But
how many
rituals,
people
whatever you
do
want
that?
to call them, don't you?
So many people don't, and if you think about when we were kids, we would do things like, let's do a Ouija board, and we didn't. You open yourself up and you don't realise.
Yeah.
But it's all very, very dangerous, unless you're with people who understand and know how to protect. But even so, you can protect yourself all you want. It doesn't. I did a protection protection, whatever it's ritual, before I went down to London Tombs. I still got an attachment.
Well, it's like in 30 East Drive, they did exorcisms, didn't they, and everything, and Fred the poltergeist was just laughing them off, and Anyway, Alexa, that's brilliant.
Okay.
Really appreciate your time, and
you're welcome.
I hope you don't have any more bother.
No, I won't have, because I'm not doing it anymore. So that's it.
But like you say, even talking about it, you might need to do a protection thing now.
I've got, I've got sage. So what I'll do is I'll go around my sage stick, give it a little bit of a spruce over, and I've got little crystals as well. So hopefully no one will come in. But Fred's definitely not welcome in my house.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right then. Well, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Cheers.
You're welcome.
Now, Cannock Chase Forest and the area around it in Staffordshire in England is quite well known for lots of weird goings-ons, lots of weird things being cited by lots of different people. We spoke to a guy called Peter Moore, who's been investigating the paranormal for over 20 years. He knows quite a lot about Cannock Chase. He's experienced quite a lot of other strange things, spectres, etc., in various parts of the Midlands in England. So let's see what he had to say. Hi guys, I'm here with Peter Moore, you've been investigating the paranormal for over 20 years, is that right?
Yeah. Well, I've been reading into it and studying into the phenomena since I was 10, so I've got 33 years now.
Right.
And did my first ghost investigation when I was 24, so literally just shy of 2 decades.
Yeah. So we're going down to Cannock Chase after seeing you, so I know you've had quite a few experiences yourself, but can you tell us, to start with, about some of your experiences and some other well-known kind of stories about Cannock Chase Forest?
Yeah. Well, the forest itself is a hotbed of various activity. I must admit, unfortunately, my biggest area of expertise is the cryptid side of things, but ghost-wise, certainly the German cemeteries are the most haunted.
So that's the German cemetery, that has the soldiers from the war in it.
Yeah. There's actually 2 parts to it. You've got a smaller one at the front with a small side car park, and then following on from that, you follow the track down, and there you've got the majority of the graves in a very large spread out area. Talking to a person in a van at the actual front car park where the smaller cemetery is, I was actually talking about an experience I had involving dead German spirits over in Wales. And coincidentally, just after finishing that story, the van door popped open and actually slid upwards against the line of gravity, because we're actually...
so there's no way that could have
No. I mean, popping out and moving slightly.
And obviously
yes,
there's no one in the
possible.
van, so...
No one outside. There was 4 of us in there. And literally, as soon as that popped open, everyone's jaw pretty much dropped, and then we all jumped out to see if anyone was there. And it's an empty car park, like 7 o'clock in the evening.
Yeah.
No one in sight, and nowhere anyone could have just very quickly dived off to without hearing them. So literally,
But
as far
I
as
don't
that
suppose
goes,
you've got that on camera or anything.
I wished I could say I
no.
had, but unfortunately we're only recording on tape at the time.
Yeah.
Though we had literally just finished the interview with the person we were doing about 20 minutes beforehand. We'd switched the tapes off.
Yeah,
so
that's
it was
always
just-
the case,
yeah.
isn't it?
But the actual main German cemetery as well, where you've got a building with epitaph in there, and literally going in there with about 6 other people.
Yeah.
Literally, people were just feeling like breezes brushing past them as though someone was walking by. And literally, that was happening for the good half hour that we were walking around the area there.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
No, what else have you seen in Cannock Chase? Or?
With Cannock itself as
You've
well.
been there a few times yourself, haven't you?
Yeah. We've had some experiences where we've had strange knocking noises occurring in response to us doing some wood knocking on the trees to try and elicit a response. We also, both me and my wife, had a bit of a weird experience where we were actually down on the south side of Cannock Chase, and there we heard what sounded like imitation owl noises. Where literally it was like 5 or 6 just suddenly rocketed up at once after we heard one about 100 yards to the left of us, and then a load more in response. That certainly did defy a bit of explanation, because this is late at night, we're the only car there, so it's not like there's anyone else that we could see in part time and be wandering around. Likewise as well with the castle ring, I do know of one person who saw a black shadowy figure that was walking around the castle ring, which is on the southeast side of Cannock.
Right.
And there they'd literally, they basically met up with a girl in the car park, and when they'd gone out to go to the toilet, they'd literally gone walking up there to go away from the car park, jump behind a tree, and there was this shadowy figure stood right in front of them.
Right.
Yeah. For myself as well, though I didn't see this directly myself, there was a group of us who were over, again it's nearest to the German cemetery, but on the west side of that you've got an old quarry.
Right.
And we're around the outskirts, the edge of the quarry. I actually had sound parabolics with me. I was listening on that, and we'd all stopped, and I could hear heavy footsteps, probably a good 200 yards from us, further down towards the actual fence of the quarry. One person went running off down there, and he saw he described it as a huge hominid figure, literally just on the other side of the fence, just by the trees.
That, as in a shadowy hominid, or as in like a Bigfoot kind of thing?
He
Or?
thinks it's like a Bigfoot style creature. As I said, I didn't see it directly myself, but it was very heavy footsteps.
Yeah. And there's reports of a pig man as well, isn't there? In Cannock Chase?
Yeah. I know someone who's collected a few reports in the area, and that's near the BT Tower. And literally there's 2 separate sightings over about 30 years where Pigman was actually seen charging towards a group of people. Literally, as soon as they saw it, they did a bunker runner from there. And then it was about, I think, late 90s, early 2000, it was seen a second time again in the same area.
And was it the same kind of description each time?
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
So what was the description?
Basically, it was walking upright figure with a pig for a head. That's probably
Yeah.
the best way I could describe it.
Well, I thought that'd be the case, but I mean, could it have been someone in a mask?
To be fair, I asked that same question myself, because with everything in the paranormal, you do have to try and find.
Oh, you've got to try and debunk it, haven't you?
Debunk it, find plausible explanations if you can. Unfortunately, I wasn't there for the event, so I've not had a chance to interview the people, but it's...
So when did you say the first one was? In the 60s?
Yes, it was about 60s or 70s.
Because obviously, because, I mean, these days you can get a pig mask, no problem. I suppose in the 90s you might have been able to, but
well,
in the 60s, you might struggle to get a decent pig mask. Like.
I know. I mean, to be fair, it's not the common Halloween costume even today.
No. Is there any other Cannock Chase?
With regards to the northern side of it on the Punchbowl car park, they're gone there a couple of times with a few groups of people, and there's a path which stretches down, goes down around to where the weir is at the crossing point on the river.
Right.
And there I've had a few people in the same area just feeling like someone's stalking them, like there's someone about to try and chase you. We actually did try a little experiment the last time we were there, which was to, where this feeling started to come into place, was to get people just literally running about good 50, 60 yards to see if it would elicit a response. And though we didn't really get any physical phenomena or anything, the atmosphere certainly seemed to take on an extra edge. And certainly I know there has been a serial killer that operated in the area that was burying bodies in the area.
Yeah.
I couldn't say if he was chasing them through there, but certainly events can leave an imprint on a place.
Yeah, so you think, because that's a well-documented case, a serial killer left 4 bodies there, and you think that that negative atmosphere can affect the whole area.
Oh God, yes. There was a place that I did an investigation at in St Helens, and this place, it was a security firm that was operating there, and literally they were the one business that had survived more than a few months for a very long time. People, even like a co-op opened up a shop there, sorry not co-op, a spa opened up a shop there, literally closed within a couple of weeks. Anything that set out in this property would just shut down. And the atmosphere, it was like a sinkhole of evil. You could bring me within half a mile of that place and I could literally point the direction to where it was, because it was like a stain on the entire area. And this building had a lot of activity going on. The staff, the reason I got a chance to look there was I actually knew the accountant who worked for the firm, and he'd actually let us in a few times. In going in, there were certain rules we had to abide by. You couldn't open the windows for one. Any blinds that were opened, it immediately led to activity going on in the place.
Yeah.
And so every staff member was on strict rules: windows shut, blinds down. Yeah, you had to operate. Yeah, you had to operate by the lights or not at all.
And where was that again, sir?
This was St Helens.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So, and you've seen quite a few apparitions as well, haven't you? Was some of them at RAF bases?
Yes. Well, the very first apparition I ever saw was actually at a place called Clambedo RAF base, and it's an old RAF base from World War II. It did move over the hill and the site got abandoned, but it got picked up by a guy who was trying to sort of like make a mini sea life centre and a little theme park in the area. Though there's an interesting story with that I could get to as well. Now, he opened up to ghost investigations after a lot of plans fell through, and there was an area there which was called the morgue. Now, during World War II, they'd had quite a few incidents. They'd had some friendly fire accidents, but they'd also captured, tortured and executed several German pilots who had been shot down and caught on the other side. And this area, which we'd nicknamed the morgue, was where they'd actually been tortured and executed. There was actually the first full apparition that I saw, which was during the seance. I'm sat there and it's like I've got what looked like a big, beefy, no-necked, big, the proper sergeant's moustache from the wars. Yeah. And literally it was in my face, this close. And wherever I looked, it would just literally swing round, be straight back there. I'd sat through this for about 30 minutes and walked out of that place completely white as a sheet.
So what was it like? How would you describe it? Like, was it a shadowy black apparition? Or,
you could clearly see the face. It was like it was lit up from behind.
Right.
So it's like literally you can see the figure.
Could anyone else see it?
Unfortunately, no. This is an interesting thing with apparitions. You will have somewhere you have group sightings of it. Second apparition I actually saw, 6 of us saw it at once, but this literally was a black shadow silhouetted in a camera flash, and it was literally people were taken away separately to describe it, and we all described it as this woman with like a very angular black dress on. But literally all that was a shadowed silhouette.
So apparitions can literally appear just to one person in a group?
Yeah. Right. I've known a few people who've seen apparitions when I haven't, and I've also seen 2 where other people couldn't see it. One of them was at Mize Archery, another one where people couldn't see was actually at Ruffin Castle.
Where's that?
Ruffin is in Wales. It's about an hour's drive from Wrexham Way.
Right. And what did you say there?
There it was like a glowing white light which flowed down, and then face appeared, body appeared. At that point there, I kind of looked and was like, can anyone else see this? And then it just vanished. But the thing that did creep me out a bit, because this was actually in the dungeons of the castle.
Right.
I did actually see a photograph of a person who had been held in the dungeons, basically before it was completely disused, and that was what I could closely say was the figure that I saw.
Right.
But that was after about 3-4 weeks of digging around online trying to find what I could on the history of the place.
Yeah. So another thing you mentioned about Cannock Chase, there's been UFO sightings there as well?
Yeah, I did actually interview a person who had seen some very unique sightings in Cannock Chase and also around Stoke as well. In Cannock, he actually was out there one night and he was playing around with a laser pen, and he actually could see a glowing white orb in the sky. He actually shot his laser pen at this and it actually started flashing in response to being hit by the laser pen.
Right.
But then as it seemed to be getting bigger, that's when literally his nerve kind of ran out a bit and he sort of legged it to the car and drove off as quickly as possible.
Right.
But this person also as well did see on a separate occasion when he was down the Cannock in the day, he'd gone wandering off into the undergrowth, and he actually took us out to this place, and it's basically a big wooded valley.
Yeah.
And he actually saw a black orb rolling down the hill, down the valley. That, and also he saw one of the, what people now mention as like tic-tac shaped UFOs. He actually did see one of them, and he has actually got part of that on camera.
I was going to say, like, the same fella's seen 3 different things, you know. Is he making it up, or if he's got a bit of evidence, then you know.
To be fair, in interviewing him, there's some people I've interviewed, and as you start talking to them and start getting details and the way they come across, you certainly can tell they're kind of embellishing things a bit or just making up a story on the spot. But with this guy, it was very well rehearsed. I mean, to be fair, he was full of so many questions himself, because to him this was just stuff he could not figure out an answer for.
So have many other people seen UFO kind of things around Cannock?
There has been sighted kind of. I mean, to be fair, the one thing I would argue as a sceptical point of view, there is a military base near there, RAF base, and potentially.
Because UFOs are often seen around military.
Now, whether that's down to something having an interest in the RAF base, or something maybe we're test piloting technology not released as of yet.
But like, I mean, all these different paranormal things. I mean, Cannock Chase is basically another hotspot, isn't it? For paranormal, you know, like Loch Ness was in our previous documentary, and you know.
Well, to be fair, RAF bases are quite a common place. As I mentioned with Clamberda, there's also.
Where's that?
Clamberda's over in Wales.
Right, another Wales one.
Yeah, but also as well, there's experience out at a place called RAF Benton. This is over in Bridlington. Now, again, this is a hotspot. There's people who've seen UFOs. There's even people who claim to have seen the UFOs landing. There's lights in the sea. People have seen a lot of ghostly apparitions. I myself there have seen 2 big cats, and I'm talking about way high. That was witnessed with 3 other people there. We did catch some of that briefly on camera as well.
I mean, big cats though, I mean, that's kind of, you know, that could be, you know, a puma is a natural, you know, people know about pumas.
But to be fair, it's only recently they started admitting potentially they could be pumas, panthers and stuff in the country anyway. So going back to all this, the other place in Wales, the RAF place where there's all the UFO sightings and goats, so were they seen, where was that? RAF Benton.
In Bridlington, sorry. And so were all these kind of, you know, the UFOs and the ghosts, were they seen by a number of people then?
Yes, there's been multiple witness sightings over the years.
Was there any photos or anything like that?
I must admit, I don't know on that side. I've not gone doing the photographs. I do know that, because the area is a popular fishing spot, so it's actually fishermen who've seen a lot of things down there. When I actually saw the big cats, I was actually just there as a general investigation. There was actually basically the site itself had Satanistic activity done on the site, where they were doing some rituals in the tunnels underneath the RAF base. This was before they were filled in, and there certainly seems to be a very inhuman presence there that seems to have been called up by them in that place. Now, this was actually also trying to test ourselves and see if there was a way to get through the defences, so to speak, and certainly was following us up. Followed us all the way around from when we seemed to come up to it by the cliffs all the way back to the car park. On top of that, there was also an energy imprinted into the area where someone had been attacked and their arm was broken, and I think they were thrown off the cliff. But the crazy thing is, there is about 4 or 5 disappearances in that area as well, where people have literally vanished and all that's been found is a car in the car park.
So I mean, it could be an alien abduction.
It could be an abduction, could be suicide, could be a serial killer stalking the site. Unfortunately, with these sort of cases, there's usually not enough evidence to go.
Fascinating. All right, well, thanks a lot, Peter. That's brilliant.
No worries.
Cheers. Well, I hope you enjoyed that, guys. I know I certainly did. I love the paranormal, so interesting. I'll be making more paranormal documentaries, don't worry, so maybe follow me along, Warren Speed. Cheers, guys.